Well, hello there. Welcome to another session of Kinstretch with the Fitness Alchemists. Today I'm really excited for this muy picante chance to work on our spinal segmentation. That's one of those things that hopefully it's starting to become a little more normal for you when we say that, what that really means. But today we're going to dive deep into some of the more edge cases of how do you segment, let's say through rotation or lateral flexion. How does segmentation contribute to your strength availability in other body shapes? So you'll see what we mean when we get into it. For props, all you're going to need is some floor space, a block, Hannah's got that. A pillow could work well, like a nice strong throw pillow that you might be able to fold up. And then we are going to use some wall space a bit later. So if you kind of navigate where you're going to work, that would be great. One note about the fact that we're calling this an advanced class, definitely don't want that to scare anyone away. It just means that the loading is going to be a little bit more intense than a beginner approach to spinal work. So if anything that we're asking for in terms of cueing, of intensity of contraction feels sketchy or unsafe, totally take the license to scale it back or stop at the amount of intensity or contraction that feels right for you. That kind of can always be said. But also, some of the movements are a little bit more complex than we would offer for someone just getting started. So if you're kind of confused or struggling with the setup a bit, that totally makes sense because it's more complex. So give it a shot. If it doesn't feel safe, don't do it. But definitely ask us any questions if you want some clarifying. Clarification, I guess is what I mean. Clarifaction. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and warm up with some scapular cars to start. I'm going to have us do these one arm at a time, and I'll show you why. I'm going to have Hannah turn around, and just go ahead, go tall kneeling to start. You could be standing instead, if you'd go tall kneeling to start. And the goal here is just to feel the independence of your scapula from your spine. So if you make like a claw shape with your hand and pin that into the side of your thigh, then you should feel some tissue turn on in your arm. You can straighten that arm out. And then we're going to start that scapular car by sliding the shoulder blade forward, sliding the whole arm up to bring that scapula up, and then bring the scapula back while the hand stays still, and then slide the whole arm down. Keep going in this direction for 30 seconds. And I want you to really just zoom in on the idea of your rib cage staying still and your scapula moving around that rib cage. That's going to really help us as we work on the spine a little later. Keep searching for those sensations of contraction. And then wherever you find yourself, pause and go ahead and reverse course. Go the other direction. Check in on if there are any spots where your elbow is trying to bend or maybe where your body's trying to jump through a range of motion. And I invite you to go even slower through that portion of your car. Nice. Go ahead and wrap up the rep you are on, and then shake that arm out. And then let's go to the other side. So you might find that you need a little bit more than a claw amount of length, distance away from your thigh. So you could throw a block in there, or you could just reach your fist out to the side. The goal is that you find a setup where your arm can be straight. Okay? So find the position that works for you. Slide that scapula forward. Start to shrug up and back. And then sliding down into your back pocket. And as you go, maybe monitor your rib cage with your other hand. Because again, the scapula and the spine love to couple together. So that's why we're starting with this car, is just to really lay out that distinction between the two. Go ahead, reverse course on that car. Explore how it feels different, how the contraction might move to a different area on your body now that you're going the other way. And as you slide that shoulder blade forward or back, try to keep your hand still on your thigh so that the hand doesn't move forward and back. Great. Take a few more seconds and finish up the rep you're on. And then go ahead and come down onto hands and knees for quadruped. And we're going to just do a quick check-in on the hip. Don't worry about this being the best hip car in the world. Again, the goal here is to feel the independence between your hip and your spine. So drive your first leg behind you into hip extension. Start to reach that shin out to the side. Rotate to bring your knee forward to your armpit, and then sweep around and touch your knees together. And just freeze here for a moment. Make sure that your spine has not rounded up towards the ceiling like that, but instead is staying still. And now let's go knee to chest. Push that shin up and out to the side. Keep that height as you reach your heel to the ceiling. Sweep that kneecap all the way behind you and touch knees together. Great. Let's do one more rep. If it feels safe, you could bring your opposite hand onto your lower back to just feel that really nothing is moving through that lower back area as you work the hip joint. Nice. Good, good, good. Go ahead and wrap up that rep, and then we'll do the other side. Nice. All right, so brace your body, drive that other heel behind you, noticing the contraction sensations right around that hip as you reach the shin out. Knee starts to go towards your armpit, but you're working hard to keep your spine neutral-ish in the same shape that you started with, and reverse course. Very good. Nice. For that second rep, if you want to throw your opposite arm behind your back, go for it. Another option, if that doesn't feel good, would be to just do this against a couch or against the wall so you can feel if you're leaning at all in that opposite direction. When we take the support arm away, you're not able to lean, so that's one benefit of that setup. Nice. Hannah makes it look easy, but this one is a tough setup for sure. Okay, and then we're going to do a spinal car just to kind of do our test-retest to see how things might change. So when we do these, I want to have you set up in a base position that is non-distracting for you. So for me, this is a really comfortable, safe feeling position, but definitely not the case for everyone if you're having anything going on with your knees or your ankles. So you might choose a seated position or even a standing position. But whatever setup you're in, you want to feel very grounded, very safe, and also like you can really engage contraction through your whole body. So if you're seated, throw that block between your knees and squeeze it. If you're here, you can, in Seiza, you can kind of kick your feet into the floor to feel some engagement of your legs. If you're standing, you can squeeze your butt, that kind of thing. So let's start here by bracing your hands on your shoulders and take a moment to just hug yourself with some real intensity so your whole upper body turns on. And then working from the top of your spine down, begin segmenting forward into flexion. So your chin pulls to your neck, then to your chest, and then you're trying to round your shoulders forward. Check in that you're not just sliding those shoulder blades apart, but you're actually getting your spine. And then once you complete that forward flexion, start to rotate to your left, feeling that you're turning from your belly button first, and then your ribs turn more, and then your shoulders finish that rotation. When you max that out, start to let your shoulders drift over into lateral flexion. I always tell people to feel like they're between two panes of glass here, and then start to extend, lifting your sternum up to the ceiling, opening up the whole front line of your body. Once you feel as open as possible, start rotating to the right. When you max that out, bring your right shoulder towards your right hip to max out lateral flexion of your spine. And then smoothly start to round forward. Good. Very nice. Take a moment and hold in flexion here. Take a big breath in and stretch the whole back of your body. And then blow the air out and try to contract the front side of your body a little more. Use that added contraction to go the other direction, to the right now. Twisting your spine, feeling that each segment of your spine offers a little bit more rotation. And then when you max that out, begin laterally flexing. Feel that your torso is between two panes of glass before you start extending. Think of collarbones lifting to the ceiling, belly button reaching towards your kneecaps. When you've maxed that out, twist to the left, feeling your belly button turn, but also your rib cage and collarbones. And then smoothly connect that to lateral flexion to the left. And smoothly connect that to forward flexion where we started. Good. Very, very nice. Okay, so like I said, we're going to come back and do some of those reps a little bit later after we get some things moving in flexion extension. But the main idea here today as we begin to add contraction and add intensity is that you can only add intensity to the tissues that you actually can feel and that you feel connected to. Yeah. So if, as we're going through any of these pieces, you feel like there's a blind spot, take a moment and try to zoom in on that specific area. That car we just did has a lot of pieces going on, so always a useful tool to pause and slow things down. For now, let's try to work on just the flexion extension part. That's the forward flexion and upward extension. Cat-cow is how we usually like to do that, so let's just start there by holding hands and knees, pressuring those hands and knees into the floor, pressing your feet into the floor, and then begin curling your tailbone under, and really try to locate the contraction on the front side of your body. As you locate it, turn it up so that this is a little higher intensity cat-cow movement than you might do, like, say, for your morning set of cars. Once you're flexed, start again at the tailbone, tail to the ceiling, then belly button reaching. And again, if you notice any contraction happening on the back side of your torso, I hope you do, send a little bit more energy to that contraction that you feel. Very nice. Good. Okay. Now hold this extension shape without moving anything. Start making your right hand feel much heavier than your left hand. And then if it feels safe to do so, lift that left hand off the ground and just place it on your other shoulder. And then begin another cat-cow, curling that tailbone under. The goal here as you move through is don't let the left shoulder drop lower than the right shoulder. So it will look to an outside observer just like the one you just did, but now you're only supported on one side. It's going to mean it's going to feel very different. Working, working, working. Finding that stability to not let your left side collapse to the floor. Good. Keep that going as you go tailbone to the ceiling. Feel free to pause and take a rest if you're finding your edge. Again, Hannah's making this look pretty easy, but this is a big challenge.
Doesn't feel easy.
Very nice.
It's an optical illusion.
Successful one. Good. Once you get all the way extended, place that left hand down. Take a moment with both hands down. Take that moment with both hands down, full extension, and start making your left hand heavier than your right. Even before you lift that right hand, just consciously make it heavier on the left side, and then take that right hand away. Start your flexion again, but realize you could have the right hand on the floor and just consciously make your left hand heavier. That's totally fine. That works well as an alternative. Work your way through this final cat-cow. Feeling how contraction on the front of your body feels different when this arm is supporting you than when the right arm was supporting you. With your chin on your chest, check in. Did that right shoulder drop at all, or are you still clear and even? And then start extending. Tailbone to the ceiling, belly button to the floor, and searching out for that contraction effort on the back side of your body. And of course, you will feel contraction other places as well, but we just want to really focus on those extension biasing muscles. Nice. Wrap that up and relax, okay? I'm going to give the wrist a little break here and come up to half kneeling now. As always, if there's anything distracting going on with this base position, please take a cushion or a pillow to put under that bottom knee. And then find more of a train track setup with your feet. So not on a single file, like on a balance beam, but more on that train track so you feel a little more laterally stable. And then consciously shift some weight to your forward leg. Here, Hannah's starting on the left side, that works fine. And shift some weight over to that left side. Good, okay? And then once you feel that that left leg is truly loaded, go ahead and cross your arms over again. I'm just gonna grab a little helper here. And we're gonna work on rotation from here. So just try to make your spine feel as tall as possible. And then the real challenge here is that there are parts of your spine that are more willing to rotate than others. So we want to try to get as many segments to play along as possible. So to help you visualize that, I'm going to just show I'm going to ask Hannah to, actually I'm going to start here. I'm going to ask Hannah to only try to rotate the segment directly above this line that I'm indicating here.
Which is like my belly button.
Yeah. So just starting with that segment. So you'll see she doesn't turn a whole lot to the left over that front leg, but she's really trying to drive that rotation from right above the line that I'm indicating. Okay, once that's maxed out, then with your mind's eye, you can keep going with us and try to turn the next segment, and then the next segment, and keep going up your spine with that sort of degree of specificity so that you feel like you're maxing out each one in sequence to be able to turn as far as possible. And then start from the top and start turning back forward, unwinding what you found, shoulders, sternum, bottom of your ribs, and finally the belly button. And we'll pause right square ahead, okay? We're going to do 2 more to the left like that.
Oh.
So brace, make sure your left leg is loaded, and begin with the belly button turning to the left. Spend that effort. Once you're confident that that's as much as you've got, move to the upstairs segment, and then the next, and the next. Good. And notice how far you're able to turn to look behind you. You can definitely use your neck here to look further and try to reach further with your eyes even. And then smoothly unwind from the top to square ahead. Good, last one. I know your legs are working hard here. Keep that left foot heavy and try to pull the floor together with both legs as we do our final rotation to the left. Belly button first, then the bottom ribs, upper back, and then finally the neck. Keep working, don't give up your effort, but start turning back with that same degree of control, that same amount of specificity. Okay, and now relax. Now as you set up on the other side, just always important to make a little comment about spinal rotation. Your lower back segments only have about 5 degrees each of rotation. That's not much. That's like barely a turn at all. So if you're feeling like, oh my God, I don't turn my spine at all, that's okay. That's actually normal through your lower back. The upper back segments, they each have more like 10 to 15 degrees of rotation. Theoretically, if they're moving smoothly. But what that means is, like you saw with Hannah, she was almost turning 90 degrees to the right, if not further, with her head, which was the result of all of those segments working together. Okay, so with that in mind, on this side, load that right leg, and again, zoom in on the very bottom of your spine, and focus on just trying to turn your belly button while your hips stay still. Once you've maxed that out, try to turn the segments above that, and then above that. Good. And just notice what is available with this good contraction effort. Of course, you want to try to get more over time, but you definitely don't want to force it. Segment your way back to face forward. And keep trying to encourage more of your tissue to get involved. As you start up your second rep, you might notice new musculature available or volunteering to help you. Go ahead and invite that in on the party. I guess we're having a real spine party today, Hannah.
Maybe that's the name of this class.
Spine party.
Advanced spine party.
Advanced spine party.
That sounds like the advanced space team.
Okay, on this last rep, let's try to encourage just a little bit more by pulling the floor together with your feet. So both legs stay active, and really wring your spine out like a washcloth. From the bottom up, trying to really find a twist. Keep your spine tall and long, reaching for the ceiling. And then smoothly rotate your way back forward from the top, down. Awesome. And you know, it's very common for one side to rotate differently than the other direction.
Sure,
so just tune into that. Now come back to hands and knees.
Oh, it's not nap time?
Not nap time yet, actually. Don't worry, the nap time will feel extra good at the end of class. Okay. So now from hands and knees, I want you to walk your knees, let's say 6 to 12 inches backwards. So we're working into like a long quadruped. So you're not fully like in a knee plank, but I want you to then shift your shoulders back as well so that your torso is sort of like between your knees and your hands. Yeah. All right, so you can take a gander at Hannah here. She's demonstrating perfectly. The goal here as we do more cat-cow is that you're not going to let yourself shift forward over your hands when you flex, and you're not going to let yourself shift back towards your feet as you extend. You're going to try to stay right in the middle. To help you with that, let's start by trying to push the floor away from your knees and then push your feet into the ground like you're a sprinter in blocks. All right, now keep both of those things happening as you begin curling your tailbone. You might get a little bit less flexion than you're used to.
A little bit.
Especially through those lower segments. But then keep spending the effort to get some extra flexion through your mid-back, your rib cage, your upper back, and finally your neck. Then pause at end range flexion and try to pull the floor together. Hands towards knees, knees towards hands, tailbone to the ceiling. Start working through extension, but keep those hands pulling on the floor so that you're really feeling the active front of your body. You might shake with a little bit of effort, and that's okay. Good. And because this is a little higher intensity, let's just do one more rep, pushing the floor apart. With your hands pushing forward, your feet pushing back as you move into spinal flexion. Even a 0.5% improvement at any of these segments is a huge win. Good. Once your chin makes it to your chest, pull the floor towards your knees with your hands. Try to pull your knees towards your hands as well. And start that extension. Contracting the spinal column muscles, reaching your belly button more towards the floor, opening your ribs up, reaching your collarbones forward and up, and stretching the front of your neck actively. Excellent. Okay. So that's going to make normal cat-cow feel like a dream when you do that in the future.
A dreamy nap dream.
Dreamy nap dream. Okay. So then come back up to your half kneeling position, and we're going to work on just a light PAILs, rails, and isometric set for rotation. So load that left leg again. Do just a lower intensity rotational effort and try to find as much rotation as you can to the left, kind of checking in on where we were working last round. And then from here, keep your torso rotated and just straighten your arms out to block the outside of your left thigh or left knee. So both hands can set up. You can see Hannah's kind of using straight arms, but if it felt better for you to bend your elbows a little bit. And once you're there, you can try to gently drag your shoulders into more rotation while keeping that right hip behind. So it's really just your spine rotating. Take a few breaths into the stretching side of your body. Breathing in. As you breathe out, feel your spine relax into a little more rotation. Okay. One final breath, breathe it in. When you pull that air in, pack it down so you pressurize your torso, and then without moving anything, start to contract by trying to unwind this rotation. Another way of saying that is push your hands into your left leg so that if your left leg wasn't there, whoosh, your torso would turn forward again. Ramp this up smoothly through 20%, 30%, 40%, and 50%. We're going to hold at 50%. So you're trying to unwind from this end range position. Just 10 more seconds. When we get to 0, I want you to switch that rotation and immediately try to rotate further to the left. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Switch to rails. Try to make those arms light or lift off your thigh and turn your belly button and your ribs and your shoulders and collarbones more to the left, wringing out a max effort rotation here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Melt that effort away. Gently come back square. Take a breath. I imagine you feel very one-sided right now. So we're going to get the other side.
Also also getting a little bit of that free drugs feeling.
Free drugs. Okay.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, we are located in California, the home of free drugs.
Oakland, California.
Oakland, California.
Okay.
All right, so load that front leg.
Boy.
Okay, and just a gentle rotation to the right to start. Really trying to think belly button first, then the ribs, then the shoulders. Wherever you feel like that stops, place your arms to hold or even increase this position. Just a quick note, you are not trying to chiropractically self-adjust yourself here. So don't feel like you're trying to really crank yourself further. We're really just trying to use the arms to block at an end range position. All right. And then once you're there, taking some deep breaths, trying to relax a bit further into this rotation, so long as it feels safe. And then take one more nice inhale to pack that air down and pressurize your torso so you're strong and ready to work. And then gradually start ramping up that PAILs contraction. That is the effort of trying to unwind your spine, but using your arms to block that effort. So your arms are working hard, your legs are working hard, and all the tissue through your spinal column that's trying to twist you forward is working very hard as well. Ramp this up to 30%, 40%, and 50% contraction. Scanning your body. Is there anywhere else you could get into the mix? 5, 4, 3, 2, keep this effort and reverse the rotation. Try to turn more to the right, not with the help of your hands, but with the active contraction of your spinal column muscles. Hold this maximum effort. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly ramp down that effort and smoothly turn back forward. Excellent.
I'm sweating.
Sweating. Higher intensity spine work, okay? Let's come back now into that long quadruped position again. Not going to be exactly the same. This is one of my all-time favorite movements, partly because it incorporates spinal segmentation with your hips and shoulders. So from this long quadruped, start scooching your knees back just a little bit further until you feel like you can squeeze your butt forward, almost like you're trying to reach the floor, but don't force it, but really make sure your butt stays squeezed in this position. All right, from here, try to pull your shoulder blades down your back to lift your sternum, and you can lift your chin as well if it feels safe. And then we're going to segment your spine from your neck down. Chin pulls into neck, then to your chest. Then start to push the ground away to round your upper back, then your mid back. Start letting your hips fold as you push the ground away and really reach your tailbone back behind you, curling your tailbone under. Good. Now when you get here, keep your hands where they are. You will not be able to get fully into child's pose, okay? So we're not headed there, but take a moment to actively open your armpits up. Okay. Now from this position, we're going to start the segmentation from the bottom of your spine. Start curling your tailbone under and keep curling your tailbone under until you can squeeze your butt again. Take your time with that. Your body will be shifting forward and you're waiting until your tail is curling so much that you feel a butt squeeze. When you get that, freeze and keep squeezing your butt now to start reaching your mid back and upper back forward into extension. Try to extend that upper back actively, feeling contraction in those upper back tissues, reaching your collarbone up, pushing the floor away, and maxing out full spinal extension. Then go back, chin to neck, chin to chest. Push the floor to round the uppermost segments of your thoracic spine, and then the middle part of your rib cage. Keep rounding over and pushing those hips back. Once your hips are over your knees, you're now thinking about reaching your chest towards the floor and reaching that tailbone kind of as far away from your fingertips as you can. Take that moment to actively stretch your armpits. And if your shoulders didn't love this position, you could totally stop a little early. And then let's move our way forward. Final rep here. Curling that tailbone to start. Trying to cramp the muscles south of your belly button. And really spending that effort until you're able to squeeze your butt. Good. Keep squeezing your glutes. Once you feel that squeezing your glutes, keep them squeezing because they'll really protect your lower back as you move into full spinal extension, reaching your ribs open, your chest up, and your collarbones towards the ceiling. Good. Once you feel like you've maxed out that active extension, gently come out of this position and relax. Yeah, so there's a lot of components working there. Good stuff. Okay, and then we're going to wrap this sort of first chunk with a retest of our spinal car. Okay, we're going to do 2 reps in each direction here, so either seated with a block between your knees or in kneeling here. But the idea here is that we're going to try to use this spinal car movement to get as much contraction going on through the whole torso as possible. So the first rep in particular is going to be pretty darn slow. I warn you ahead of time. Begin by hugging your shoulders and pulling your chin into your neck. And feel that contraction in your neck. Then chin to chest and feel that contraction a little bit lower across your shoulders. And then a little bit lower as you begin to pull those shoulders in front of your pelvis. Good. And then keep going down, working your way forward into flexion, and pause when you max out flexion. Now right here, I want you to try to send as much signal to those shortening tissues in the front of your torso as you can, almost like you're going to try to cramp here. All right? Keep that effort happening and use them to begin turning your belly button to the left. When the belly button can't turn more, turn your bottom ribs to the left. And then the mid part of your rib cage. And finally, your shoulder blades. And this should feel familiar to the rotational work we were really working on a second ago. When you've maxed it out, start dipping your left shoulder towards your left hip and feel that rotational contraction turn into a lateral contraction. Really open up that whole opening side of your body actively, and then start to extend your spine, trying to open up the front of your body as much as you can and cramping all the back muscles from your shoulders down to your tailbone. From here, rotate to the right, wringing out every segment of rotation. When that's maxed out, dip your right shoulder to your right hip. And then smoothly connect that to the forward flexion position. Really pulling your ribs towards your pelvis and shortening the front line of your body. Once you're here, take a big breath into the back side of your body. Blow that air out actively to shorten up even more, and then use that intense effort to rotate to the right. Wringing it out, maxing it out. You don't know how much rotation you have after these spinal exercises. So really check in before you start laterally flexing, opening up that whole left side of your body for a stretch, and then feel that stretch move to the front of your body as you begin to extend your spine. Active, belly button to kneecaps, rib cage segments moving apart. From here, rotate left, big twist, side flex to the left, trying to cramp all the muscles on the left side of your body, and then round forward, contracting your way into that forward flexion that we found at the very beginning. Good, and relax for a moment. Okay, if your base position needs a moment, take it. We're doing one more rep, Hannah. No, here we go. All right, let's get after that second rep. And make sure you keep moving here even as you look for those contractions. We don't want to burn out on this final rep. So brace yourself, hug your shoulders or cross your arms, round forward into flexion. Good. And this round, really use your active effort to try to lengthen the backside of your spine even further. Make sure all of the tissues on the front of your body are contributing before you start twisting to the left. Feeling the bottom segments, hand off to the middle back segments, to the upper back segments. And then smoothly, when you've maxed that out, left shoulder to left hip, can you make your spine even longer as it arches over to the left? Can you make it even longer as you extend up to the ceiling? Finding contraction from tail to head. And then a big twist to the right. Shoulders leading the way. Then the mid back and the lower back before you start side flexing.
Whatever was there.
Yeah, whatever you can find. And then smoothly connect the dots forward. Good stuff. Take a breath here, fully stretching the backside of your body with your inhale, and then fully contracting the front side of your body with that exhale, twisting off to the right. At this point, it should feel very muscular. Like at any of these segments, if someone came over to try to push you, you would be able to hold the shape of your spine. So you're not letting gravity push or pull you into any of these positions, but you're actively and consciously moving into them. Keep staying with that work, taking your time here, extending, rotating, and side flexing. Very nice. Let that side flexion effort gradually move into forward flexion effort. Great stuff. Very nice. Okay, so relax for a moment. That was great. I know that takes a ton of focus and on top of the physical effort, but I just want to comment that this is core training, absolutely, but it's also improving the health of your joints. So it's kind of an opportunity to hit multiple components of your spinal health with one movement, especially when you take the time to go slow and really find those contractions. So well done. All right, so now we're gonna keep moving through. I want you to come up to standing now and grab your block. Now you're gonna set up on the wall in this way where the block is gonna be kind of right at the bottom of your rib cage against the wall, and you're gonna stand close enough to the wall that you can actually press it and kind of sandwich it into the wall. That's gonna give you a nice borderline. But for clarity for y'all to be able to see what's going on, I'm gonna be the wall for Hannah here, and she's gonna segment away from the wall, like you're gonna be segmenting away from that block. Now,
The parts above.
yeah, exactly. So the goal here is that we're gonna be moving into lateral flexion, just show a little lateral flexion, boom, okay? We're gonna do it segmentally, just 3 reps, but you're gonna try to only move above the block. So if you feel yourself leave the block, go ahead, show what that means, boom. No, that means you're moving the segments around the block. The other thing that tends to happen is that the hips want to move, yes. So that's why the wall can be helpful. So start by actively pressing the block into the wall.
The other thing that helps me with that is placing my feet a little wider. If the feet are too narrow, right?
Okay, so find that nice stable base with the feet. Then brace your torso, and we're gonna move from the top down. Don't worry about the neck too much. Let's focus starting on the shoulders. Start bringing that left shoulder towards the left hip. And then as you work, try to consciously segment open all the chunks of your spine above the block. When you feel like that's done, start from the bottom, shortening, shortening, shortening. Good thing Hannah's not too ticklish, because that would be a very ticklish moment. Let's do 2 more reps, okay? Really trying to find movement in a smaller amount of your spine for each segmental effort. Good. It's very common at first with this to feel like it's just sort of one big chunk moving to the side, but the goal as we work through this final 3rd rep is to feel segmentation at each segment of your spine and really break up those chunks into many constituent parts. As you find that end range, keep working even as you come upright. So you're building control. Very nice. Good. Okay. Maybe just turn around so they can see it from the back too.
The sweat continues.
Yeah, this is a hard work, team. This is what we're talking about with that advanced level effort. Find your stable base. Push yourself into the block. So you're not just holding it there, but you're actively pressing it into the wall. And then starting right at your shoulders, begin moving down to move away from the wall, segmenting your spine, really feeling one side of your spine opening as the other side shortens, and then segment your way back up. Good. Brace for second rep. Good. So it's not just the contraction under your armpit, but it's actually contraction right at that spinal column, as well as the tissue under your armpit. Okay.
It feels so different.
Yeah, it's going to be very sided. Final rep, really think of opening that wall side of your spine. Try to send a stretch to that wall-facing side of your body. And then control your way back upright. Very good. Okay, so I just wanted to offer a little bit of a moment for that. I'm going to stay standing.
Oh, God.
For this second one, it's going to take a little shorter because we're going to bring that block up a little bit higher now. So right maybe 2-3 inches higher. This might now feel like, Will, you got to be kidding me. There's no movement here. There is going to be a very small amount of movement, and I want you to zoom in on it. Okay? So brace your body, push into the block, and then again, starting with your shoulders, try to open up. So you're lifting your shoulder away from the block and away from the wall. When you max it out, bring it back. Good. 2 more reps. Make sure you're not moving any of the tissues below or on the block, but just above. And then control your way back up. Last one. Gather your efforts before you start. You got this. There it is. Excellent. Nice job. Okay. Turn it around to the other side.
Hardest, tiniest movement ever.
Now, one component of this is that if we're segmentally making more space in each of these sides, then it would make sense that when we come back upright, it feels a little bit longer, a little taller through your spine. So take a moment, start tall, and then as you begin your segmentation, think about actually trying to lengthen that wall side of your spine. And then smoothly bring it back. Good. Brace for rep 2. Really opening up the wall side and shortening the opposite side of your spine. Last one. Heavy pressure into the block, into the wall. Use that to keep the block touching tissue and the tissue below the block still. And bring it up. Nice job. Okay, so again, that will come back, not today, but when you do your spinal segmentation again at some point, hopefully you're able to plug that in. Now we're going to finish up with a little conditioning set for putting some of these pieces into some base positions that are maybe not as familiar in terms of spinal training, but they absolutely involve your spine. So the first one is going to be a squat. Kind of a deep but active squat. If you know that that's not a position that works for you, please use seated, and just any seated position is going to be great. You're going to want your block between your knees for that seated position. The other thing that might be limited with a squat is that your ankles might be a little tight. So Hannah is going to, let me just show this with Hannah. So if Hannah drops into a squat, she has a pretty deep squat and she's able to kind of rest comfortably here. But you might notice if you get into the squat that it feels like you're going to fall backwards, and what you really need is just to drift forward onto your toes a little bit to hold a squat. If that's the case, you could grab a dowel or a book and just throw that underneath your heels so that you can sit down and really feel secure here in a squat. Okay, so it might even help you if you do have a nice deep squat. And then from there, I want you to elevate out of your squat just like 1 inch. So just come up 1 inch and feel this active effort. This is where we're going to be working in just a second. You can relax. So if you're seated, you have the block between your knees. If you're squatting, you're going to start in a deep squat and then just hover that inch up. All right. From here, we're going to do cat-cow segmentation. So curling forward into flexion and then extending from the tailbone into extension. But it's going to be active effort through your legs. So I'm going to watch the clock and you're only going to work for 40 seconds once we begin. Okay? So go ahead, find your base position of choice.
I think I like this.
Yeah, I like that heel elevation a little bit.
It just is a little less stressful.
Sure. You don't want to feel like a squat is just an exercise for your shins. That's sort of part of it. Okay. Now once you drop into your deep squat or sitting on the chair, hug your shoulders and then hover just an inch, maybe even just a half an inch. Pause there. Start curling your tailbone under. Really trying to stretch the lower back behind you. As you keep moving up your spine, round those shoulders forward. Finish up, and then keep that chin on your chest as you begin at your tailbone, reaching behind you. Belly button reaching towards your knees, so you're almost trying to cramp your hip creases here. Very nice. We're halfway through, team. Take your time. Don't worry about your rep count. Start again at your tailbone when your chin reaches up as high as possible. Curling that tailbone under. Keep those feet heavy. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Relax. So Hannah just finished in full flexion. That's where we're going to start next round, okay? But we're going to take a little break and come into side frame.
Break.
Yeah, I should say a break from squatting to come into side frame.
Something else is hard.
Okay. So side plank, maybe a position that you're familiar with, another core training exercise. That's all well and good so long as you're actually able to engage those tissues. They're the same tissues that helped you laterally segment, which is why we started there. Okay, so you're going to start out in side plank, but with the bottom knee bent and with your thighs stacked up. So yeah, just sweep the knees like here. Don't worry about which side you're starting on. Either side is fine. And just lift your hips up off the ground here. And squeeze your butt so that you can again feel like you're between two panes of glass. And then try to arch your ribs away from the floor as far as you can. Yeah, so I'm just using the block to kind of indicate. Imagine you're trying to chase away from a block that's right under you. Once you find that maximum amount of lateral flexion, slowly begin making your bottom leg lighter and lighter, which will mean your top leg has to hold your effort, and then hold whatever amount of lightness you're able to feel. 5, 4, 3, 2, keep your effort and slowly relax your hips down to the ground. Let your ribs collapse down. We're going to do one more rep on this side. Now I didn't see, did you lift your knee off the ground?
Nope.
Okay, so no need to lift your knee, although you might find that you're making it lighter and lighter and it does hover off the ground. That's fine too. The main thing we want is to not lose the shape that you found in your spine. Okay, so come up for your second rep on this side. Find that arch, lift your hips, really arch and feel your elbow and fist get heavy into the ground. And then using that top leg for stability, start to lighten up through your bottom leg and don't give away any of that lateral flexion. You're on the clock, 8 seconds, team. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Good. And go ahead and head over to the other side. So I love how Hannah is using her top arm to really help support. And it might look like she's turning her shoulders towards the floor, but she's not. The ribs and the lower back are fully laterally flexed, just like we were doing away from the wall. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead. Anything you're feeling or observing?
It's a lot of work for both inner thighs.
Yes.
So if you're feeling that, that is not wrong.
Yes.
Like they have to help.
They have to help, and they're also not always the strongest part of our hips. So it might feel like a ton of work for your inner thighs. You're welcome.
One more thing I want to add. The second rep, I tried to get some flexion before I lifted my hips.
That was great. Yeah. So go ahead and start with that lateral flexion, and then lift your hips, squeeze your butt, and then once you're feeling like this is your end range lateral flexion, begin making that bottom knee light, and hold whatever end range hold you can. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Melt it down. Excellent. Okay, second rep here. Take a breath. Now, if this bottom shoulder is the main point that's distracting for you, go ahead and place your elbow instead on like a countertop, and you can do almost the exact same drill here, just arching away and making your bottom leg light that way, okay? So you just elevate that bottom arm. So find that lateral flexion, lift your hips, squeeze your butt tight so your hips are extended, and then start making that bottom leg lighter and lighter, but do not let your ribs or hips drop towards the floor. And we're holding. End range lateral flexion, trying to cramp the muscles on the side of your body for 3, 2, 1, and relax. Okay. Now come back to your squat. Last time, cow. Good. And then just a comment about any sort of bracing strategy that helps you, I want you to engage. So if it felt good to hug, that's awesome. You might also squeeze a block out in front of you, squeeze 2 fists out in front of you. Whatever will help get more out of your spinal column tissues is a good idea. So whatever base position you're using, hover up 1 inch. Good. And then brace your upper body. And I think we're in flexion, so start extending this time. Tailbone behind you, belly button reaching forward, opening up your ribs. Keep those feet braced and solid on the ground. And then with collarbones really nice and open, begin curling your tailbone under, finding that contraction through your lower abs, and then your mid back, your upper back. Very nice. We got 10 seconds to go. Make those feet heavy. Those arms are working hard. Really trying to max out the segmentation of your spine. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Okay, so definitely know that when we change the base position like that, it's not going to be a perfect cat-cow by any means, but it's just layering in that complexity so that maybe when you go back to your cat-cow, you're going to have a bit more awareness. Let's finish up here with this final passive range hold for lateral flexion. Okay, start by scooching those hips forward into hip extension. So you can feel like you almost can squeeze your butt here. Yeah, okay. Then your thighs are stacked up. Arch your ribs away from the floor. And then lift those hips. Find your absolute end range lateral flexion, almost like you're trying to arch your rib cage up towards the ceiling. And then once you feel like that's end range, begin making your bottom leg lighter and lighter until you're loading that end range as much as possible. Good. Keep holding. 3, 2, 1, and melt it down. Very nice. Take a breath. One comment with side plank also is trying to, as you set up, really open your chest so that scapula is in a nice strong position. Yeah. Often it tends to go forward, and then it can create some issues at the front of the shoulder.
If your elbow's too far away from you, it won't work very well. Also.
Okay, yeah, so find that strong, stable spot for your elbow to live. Arch your ribs, then lift your hips to continue arching your ribs. Nice, readjust as needed. Light. And hold. Yeah. Good. Work hard here. Spend what you've got left on this side for 5, 4, 3. Breathing around tight muscles. 1, and relax down. Awesome job. Other side.
Almost went straight to Crampsville.
Crampsville. Good. Yeah, so it sometimes can be weird to cramp some of these tissues through your armpit or even between your ribs. I've sometimes cramped those muscles between ribs. Very odd sensation. Okay, so hips are extended, arch your ribs, then lift your hips. Really feel your top foot is heavy to help support as you make that bottom leg light. 10-second hold here. End range lateral flexion. Continue trying to arch higher for 3, 2, 1, and melt down. Yeah, it just came to mind, like, we're not just holding a position and trying to hold. We're trying to push through a stopping point. So the whole time Hannah's thinking of more arch, more arch, more arch. Yeah. Okay, so try to plug that in for your final rep on this side. Arch, lift your hips, squeeze your butt, and then make that bottom leg lighter and lighter till you find your max effort, and keep trying to arch your rib cage up towards the ceiling. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Awesome job. All right, so if you made it this far in the class, you get extra points. Again, this brings up a lot of questions. We're dealing with a lot of variables here, so please hit us up, and we'd love to hear how it went for you. See you soon.